I learned so much today from Judge Heavey's presentation. It is very informative for me to hear from a judge who has reviewed hundreds of cases, as well as before he was a judge, a lawmaker, as well as someone that knows the party, Amanda Knox. Don't rush to judgment on this case because of what you've heard or seen in the media. See this presentation, see the real facts, see the real evidence, and you will conclude, as the Italian court did months ago, that Amanda Knox is innocent. Everyone needs to see this presentation, because if they do, they will conclude, as the Italian court did months ago, that Amanda Knox is innocent.
And I just witnessed a great, forceful presentation. There is no way you can leave this presentation and not be convinced of what Mike has told us. It was very well organized and very well done. I just urge everybody to see this presentation at some point.
And his law degree from Santa Clara Law School in 1976. In 1986, he was elected to the state legislature, where he served for 14 years, 8 years in the Senate, or in the House, and 6 in the Senate. In September of 2000, he became Superior Court judge in King County. At age 66, he climbed Mount Rainier. That was your fourth
64.
64. Fourth ascent. Very impressive. He is married with 3 adult children. Mike retired as a judge on January 13th of this year. Please welcome Judge Michael Heavey.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you, Leslie, for the very kind introduction. I'm tremendously gratified by so many friends I have here, the ones I don't know and the ones that I do know, and especially my former colleagues in the State House of Representatives, former Representative Brian Thomas, thank you, Brian, and former State Representative Jesse Weinberry. Thank you both for coming. I hadn't seen either of these two gentlemen in many, many years, so thanks so much for being here. Shalom, amigos. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to tell you this story. But most of all, Rotarians, thank you for your service. Thank you for your service to our community and indeed the world community at large. I honor the underlying principles of Rotary. They are the principles of service and truth. I honor the Rotary 4-way test and have attempted to follow it in this presentation. In fact, this whole presentation will be about one thing: the truth. Groucho Marx once said, "I was married by a judge, but I should have had a jury." So I'll be the judge and you be the jury. Okay, raise your hand if you believe that Amanda Knox is 100% innocent. Great, thank you. Raise your hand if you don't know. Maybe she was involved, could have been involved, who knows? I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand if you think she's guilty. I don't think anybody believes that, but if you do, please keep an open mind. Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito are absolutely 100% innocent. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the truth. I'm going to give you facts, information that you are going to find interesting, facts that were never reported in the press, and you've probably never heard them before. In the law, as Mr. John O'Brien could tell us, the words facts, evidence, and testimony are used interchangeably. They mean exactly the same thing. A little background on myself. I'm a neighbor of Amanda's. She lives about 4 blocks from our house. She is a friend of my oldest daughter. They were in the same class at Seattle Prep High School, and they carpooled together for 4 years to North Capitol Hill from West Seattle. I have been closely involved in this case almost since the beginning. I have been in the law for 40 years. I have presided over hundreds of civil and criminal trials. Last week, March 26th, the acquittal of Amanda and Raffaele was vacated by the Supreme Court in Italy. She and Raffaele will stand trial for a third time in Florence. I submit and will show you that it is merely face-saving for the Italian justice system. The Italian Supreme Court cannot handle the truth. I became involved for 3 reasons. The first was based upon my experience. The police theory did not add up. Their theory was 2 young college lovebirds spending a romantic evening together at Raffaele's apartment, get up in the middle of the night, go over to Amanda's house a 15-minute walk away, team up with a local drifter they did not know, sexually assault and murder Amanda's friend and roommate. Doesn't add up. It has never happened in the annals of crime. The second reason is that I asked my daughter, what did you think of Amanda Knox? And what she told me is the quote at the top of this slide. Amanda is the most genuinely kind person I know. She does not have a mean bone in her body. I was surprised at the answer because it created a major disconnect between what I was seeing in the press and what my daughter told me. The third reason I became involved was I became aware of the demonization of Amanda in the press. I became incensed at the lies about her character and supposed evidence that never existed. I felt it was a wrongful conviction waiting to happen. Okay, a quick timeline. November 1st, 07, the night of the murder. November 6th, 07, Amanda, Raffaele, her then boyfriend, and a bar owner by the name of Patrick Lumumba are arrested. November 25th, 07, Rudy Guadet, arrested in Germany. October 2008, in a separate trial, Rudy Guadet found guilty of murder. December 5th, 2009, Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito are found guilty. November 2010, a new judge is appointed for the appeal trial. January 2011, the new trial, the appeal trial, begins. October 3rd, 2011, Amanda and Raffaele are found innocent. March 26th, Supreme Court vacates their acquittal. What happened to Amanda is a terrible injustice. Wrongfully locked up for 4 years, ridiculed and defamed, but that pales in comparison. This is Meredith Kircher, one of Amanda's roommates. She was a beautiful young woman with a bright future. On the night of November 1st, 2007, she was brutally murdered and sexually assaulted. She left behind a devastated family. This bright light went out. I don't think it gets any worse than that. On November 6, 2007, the police called this press conference. Based upon an all-night interrogation of Amanda Knox, they had arrested her then boyfriend, Raffaele, and a bar owner by the name of Patrick. They announced to the world, caso chiuso, case closed. Not quite. The man on the left is the bar owner, Patrick. The police had a hunch he was the killer because he knew the victim and he knew Amanda. After an all-night interrogation, they coerced Amanda into naming Patrick as the killer. Luckily for Patrick, he had an ironclad alibi. He was innocent. He was released. 3 weeks after the murder, they captured Rudy Guede, the real killer. Amanda and her boyfriend, then boyfriend, stayed in jail, and everything else remained the same. Okay, I don't know how much you know, but this is not a mystery. This case is not a mystery. It's not a whodunit. This man, Rudy Guede, is the killer. In a separate trial, he was convicted and sent to prison for 30 years, later reduced to 16 years on appeal. This is a no-brainer. He's what we would call in the state of Washington a sexually violent predator. SVP. He should be locked up for the rest of his life. The evidence against Rudy is overwhelming. He admits to being present during the murder. Her blood, his palm print. Her blood, his shoe print. Her blood, his bare footprint. A vaginal swab has his DNA on it. He is a known burglar. He fled the country 24 hours after the murder, and when he was found 3 weeks later, he still had cuts on his hand. There's a proverb in the Bible, the wicked flee when no one pursues. Nobody was after Rudy at the beginning, but he fled to Germany. Rudy's story is that he claimed he knew Meredith, that Meredith had invited him in. They had romantic, intimate contact short of sex, and that while he was on the toilet, another man came in and killed Meredith and then ran out of the house. I think the main reason I know he's the killer, besides all the overwhelming evidence, is his answer to the following question. Well, if Meredith was your friend and someone else killed her while you were on the toilet, why didn't you call the police or an ambulance? Why didn't you try to help her? He had no credible answer. I submit only a killer would run. I submit a friend would try to save her, to help her. He's a sexually violent predator. He should be locked up for the rest of his life. So about 3 weeks after the murder, the police have all this evidence pointing to Rudy. Nothing points to Amanda and Raffaele, and certainly nothing points to Patrick, who was released. They had a fundamental choice to make. Option A, admit the truth. Admit that they latched on to a blind hunch without any forensic evidence. Admit that they browbeat a terrified 20-year-old American college student into accusing an innocent man. They could admit they made a grandiose statement that the case was closed. They could admit that their imaginations had come up with a ridiculous, lurid, and absurd theory that the crime was a sex orgy gone wrong. Option A was not an attractive choice because it would make them look like incompetent fools in front of the entire world. Instead of the truth, they went with option B, which was to perpetuate a false accusation by any means necessary. So, question, what are the psychological drivers? What are the reasons that police and prosecutors sometimes, very rarely, pursue a false accusation? I teach a class on wrongful convictions. How do they happen? They start and continue with what I call the 4 psychological drivers of wrongful convictions. They explain why police and prosecutors pursue cases with little or no evidence. They are 1, pressure. There's been a horrendous, heinous crime. Let's get the bad guy locked up and put behind bars. 2, confirmation bias. Once we as human beings have looked at a situation, a problem, and we have come to an answer, a solution, we form a bias. We form a fondness for our answer, and it is subconscious. It's why scientists have to have double-blind tests. Have you ever noticed that when you buy a new car, you see your new car, make, model, color, everywhere? It's subconscious. You didn't even realize you were doing it till I pointed it out to you. But you have a fondness for your decision to buy that car. Protecting your reputation. That is the key reason that the prosecution went with option B in this case. The 4th is protecting the system. And the decision of the Supreme Court to send this back for a 3rd trial is protecting the system. Okay, I apologize. It's been a little grisly talking about a sexual homicide. So we're going to have a little comedic relief. In the next slide, we are going to see an example of confirmation bias. It is seen from the movie A Shot in the Dark, starring Peter Sellers and Elke Sommer. Peter Sellers plays the bungling but well-intentioned and good-hearted Inspector Jacques Clouseau. Elke Sommer plays Maria Gambrelli, the maid suspected of murder. Here is Clouseau lecturing his assistant, Hercule, on how crimes are solved. With the facts. Nothing matters but the facts. The problem is that Clouseau is smitten with Maria and has a bias that she is innocent.
Facts, Hercule, facts. Nothing matters but the facts. Without them, the science of criminal investigation is nothing more than a guessing game. You listen to me, Hercule, and you will learn something. Now then, the facts in this case are: the body of the chauffeur was found in the bedroom of the second maid. Fact. Cause of death, 4 bullets in the chest. Fact. The bullets were fired at close range from a .25 caliber Beretta automatic. Fact. Maria Gambrelli was discovered with the murder weapon in her hand. Fact. The murder weapon was registered in the name of the deceased, Miguel Ostos, and was kept, mark you, in the glove compartment of the Ballon Rolls-Royce. Fact. Now then, members of the household staff have testified that Miguel Ostos beat... Careful, you fool, you've broken my pointing stick. I've got nothing to point with now. Have testified that Miguel Ostos beat Maria Gambrelli frequently. And now finally comes the sworn statement of Monsieur and Madame Ballon, as well as all the members of the staff, each of them with perfect alibis. Now then, Hercule, what is the inescapable conclusion?
Maria Gambrelli killed the chauffeur.
What? You idiot! Impossible! She's protecting someone.
How do you know that?
Instinct!
But the facts?
You are forgetting the most important fact. Motive.
So, once we've latched onto a bias, in this case, no amount of facts or evidence can convince Clouseau that Maria Gambrelli could be the maid, could be guilty of murder. The police, the prosecution, the city of Perugia, the country of Italy, and eventually some of the world latched on to a bias that Amanda was a bad person and guilty. No matter that there is not an iota of evidence, piece of evidence against Amanda or Raffaele, no matter that there is a ton of evidence against Rudy, all this cannot change some people's minds. That is the power of confirmation bias. Once we form a bias, our fondness for that bias subconsciously makes it almost impossible to change. So you might say, Judge, well, how do you get a conviction with no evidence? I call these the 5 power tools used. They are inflammatory media, create in the public your bias. Coercive interrogations, unreliable witnesses, junk forensic science, and official misconduct. Amanda's case had all of these 5 elements in spades. Official misconduct. Police leaked false information attacking Amanda's character to the press. She became the most hated person in Italy based upon lies. Amanda was coerced into signing a statement that accused an innocent man. A key scientific witness lied about a DNA quantity present in a test. Police destroyed 5 computer hard drives containing evidence. But perhaps the most egregious example of misconduct was the victim was found naked on the floor. Underneath her, the killer had placed a pillow, and on that pillowcase was a semen stain. The police did not test the semen stain for DNA. During the first trial, Raffaele's attorneys said, Judge, make them test the semen stain. You will see it's not Raffaele's. The prosecution vehemently opposed that motion to test the semen stain. The judge agreed, we will not test the semen stain for DNA. So in a sexual assault and murder case, the police, the prosecution, and the judge feel it is unnecessary to test a semen stain for DNA. Unbelievable. I would submit that the individual that left that semen stain is the killer. That's his signature. So the first trial was a sad joke. I'd call it a kangaroo court, but that would be a step up and an insult to marsupials everywhere. So on the first trial, on December 5th, 2009, Amanda and Raffaele are found guilty of murder and rape and sentenced to long prison terms. However, it wasn't over yet. Republican Donald Trump, Democrat U.S. Senator Maria Cantwell, CBS, CNN, ABC, the New York Times, the Seattle Times, the Christian Science Monitor, and The Economist. All of these entities stated there was no credible evidence against Amanda and Raffaele. Please note that these entities rarely, if ever, comment on criminal cases, but they had looked at the case, were overwhelmed by the injustice, they got involved. In addition, it happened in Italy. 11 members of the Italian parliament sent a letter protesting what was going on in Perugia. I think CBS News hired renowned Chicago private investigator Paul Ciolino to go to Perugia and investigate the case. And I think he summed it up best early on. He said, "This is the railroad job from hell." Now, right before the appeal trial, almost a miracle happened. The authorities in Rome removed the Perugia lead judge and replaced him with a northern Italian judge. His name is Judge Claudio Hellman. Judge Hellman has a stellar reputation in Italy as a judge. He is known for his courage, intelligence, and integrity. Judge Hellman and Assistant Judge Zanetti and 6 popular judges looked at the case intensely for 10 months, intensively. And at the end of the second trial, on October 3rd, 2011, they acquitted Amanda and Raffaele. They noted in their written opinion, among other things, quote, "the substantive non-existence of evidence." There it is. The emperor has no clothes. There is no evidence against these 2 kids. The last sentence of their decision, quote, "Our system will not tolerate the wrongful conviction of the innocent." They also spoke in that decision about their character and the supposed motive to murder. Quote, "2 young people, good and open to others, to suddenly choose to do evil for evil's sake, just like that, is not probable." Sum it up, he said they were good kids, and the theory that they were involved did not make sense. Okay, there's a subtle nuance on the verdict, which has now become very important. In the U.S., we have 2 options for a verdict for a jury: guilty, not guilty. In Italy, however, there are 3 verdict options: guilty, not guilty, which means there's insufficient evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty of the crime charged. Kind of like ours. But they also have a 3rd verdict, rarely used, and it is innocent. They did not commit the crime. So when Judge Hellman read the verdict, he said, innocent. They did not commit the crime. This was a slap in the face, a rebuke to the entire prosecution. It said to anyone who knew anything about the case, the truth was, there is no evidence against Amanda and Raffaele. In Italy, this was called the trial of the century. So a verdict to them said to the entire world, this 4-year Italian opera is a farce. It is a fiction. The criminals are those who perpetuated a false accusation against 2 good young people. These police and prosecutors lied, cheated, and stole the innocence of 2 good young people. They are the criminals. Why did the Supreme Court of Italy send this case back? Here is the answer.
I'll answer the question. You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
In an effort to save face, the Italian Supreme Court joined the prosecution and police in Perugia who perpetuated these false accusations. The Italian Supreme Court has become criminals themselves. They continue the abuse of two good young people. My prediction, this goes back for a third trial. There won't be too much fanfare, and the verdict will be not guilty. Insufficient evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. The Court of Cassation, the Supreme Court, does this to save face. But in reality, in my opinion, they have disgraced themselves as jurists. They continue the disgrace of their country. Is this justice? I think not. This is Tom Hanks. In the movie Philadelphia, he plays attorney Andrew Beckett. Andrew is suing his former law firm for discriminating against him because he has AIDS. Denzel Washington plays Joe Miller, his attorney.
All right. Are you a good lawyer, Andrew?
I'm an excellent lawyer.
What makes you an excellent lawyer?
I love the law. I know the law. I excel at practicing.
What do you love about the law, Andrew?
Many things. What I love the most about the law
Yes.
is that every now and again, not often, but occasionally, you get to be a part of justice being done. That really is quite a thrill when that happens.
I would suggest you don't have to be a lawyer to be involved in justice being done. You, each one of you, can get involved. Rotarians, ask yourself, what is the truth? And you could tell anyone who will listen to you the truth. Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito are innocent, and the Italians are trying to cover up this truth. You could write the Italian ambassador stationed in Washington, D.C. Tell him what you think. Tell your elected representatives. Ask them to speak out on behalf of Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito. Get involved with justice being done. It is quite a thrill when that happens. Amanda and Raffaele will one day again have justice. And you will have been a part of justice being done. And you will experience the thrill when that happens. Thank you all so much for listening. Very much appreciated.